The galaxy stands on the edge of collapse. Armies clash, empires fall, and destinies collide. In the finale of Foundation Season 3, every choice, every betrayal, and every prophecy comes together to shape the future of humanity. But was it fate? Or free will that brought us here? The story of Foundation has always been about survival, humanity's fight to outlive an empire that seems eternal but is rotting from within. At the heart of this season lies the clash between the mighty Cleonic dynasty, who cling to power through cloning, and the scattered rebels, dreamers, and prophets who try to guide the galaxy toward a new order. Throughout Season 3, the cracks in the empire became impossible to hide. Brother Day and his brothers, once untouchable rulers, began to face challenges not only from outside enemies but from each other. Their dynasty, built on genetic repetition, showed signs of weakness. Doubts crept in about whether their endless cycle of cloned rulers was still capable of holding together billions of lives spread across the stars. Meanwhile, the Foundation itself, the vision of Hari Seldon, continued to grow in influence. What started as a small group of exiles on the planet Terminus had now become a powerful force, driven by the weight of prophecy and the promise of Seldon's plan. This plan was never just about survival. It was about creating a second chance for civilization, ensuring that the fall of the Empire wouldn't plunge humanity into endless dark ages. But every step forward carried risk. Every choice could break the delicate timeline Seldon had predicted. At the center of it all stood Gaal Dornick. Once a wide-eyed mathematician, she now carried the crushing burden of visions that reached far beyond her own lifetime. Her connection to the future, to her daughter Salvor, and to the legendary Hari Seldon made her one of the most important figures in the galaxy. Yet she faced a question no prophecy could easily answer. Was she a free woman making her own decisions, or just another piece in Seldon's vast calculation? Season 3 also brought the shadow of the Mule closer than ever. This mysterious warlord, born from suffering and gifted with terrifying psychic powers, stood as the greatest threat not only to the Empire but to Seldon's plan itself. Every glimpse of him, every hint of his rise, added tension to the story. His presence was a reminder that no plan, no matter how perfect, could fully account for human will and the chaos of power. The finale built upon all these threads: the crumbling empire, the rising foundation, Gaal's visions, and the shadow of the Mule until they finally collided. The stakes were no longer just about politics or survival. They were about the future of human destiny itself. Would the galaxy follow the path Seldon laid out, or would it be consumed by betrayal, fear, and ambition? This was the world as the finale began, a galaxy divided, its rulers losing control, its rebels unsure of their future, and its heroes questioning whether they were shaping destiny or merely trapped within it. Every scene of the finale grew from this foundation, setting the stage for betrayals, revelations, and battles that would decide the fate of countless worlds. Destiny is a heavy word in the Foundation universe. It does not only belong to kings or prophets, it belongs to everyone who dares to believe that the future can be known. And in the finale, that belief was pushed to its breaking point. Hari Seldon's psychohistory promised patterns, a map of centuries, even millennia, where every rebellion and every fall of power had already been written. But what happens when the map itself begins to crack? Hari has always existed as more than a man. By the time of the third season's finale, he had become almost myth, a guiding force appearing through simulations, memories, and projections. His plan was meant to predict the future of civilizations, not individuals. Yet the story repeatedly showed us that individuals, Gaal, Salvor, even the Mule, could shift the course of history in ways Hari's equations never fully captured. The finale drove this tension home with relentless force. Was the galaxy still moving according to Seldon's plan, or had the path been broken beyond repair? Gaal Dornick, more than anyone, felt the crushing weight of prophecy. She had visions of a future where the Mule rose unchecked, spreading terror and bending entire populations to his will. These visions haunted her, not as distant predictions, but as lived experiences from timelines yet to come. To her, the future was not abstract, it was vivid, real, and horrifying. Every choice she made seemed to drag her closer to the nightmare she wished to avoid. She wrestled with a terrible question. If she already knew what was coming, did she have the power to change it? Or was she doomed to play her role exactly as foretold? Salvor Hardin's presence deepened this conflict. As Gaal's daughter tied to her by both love and destiny, Salvor represented both hope and heartbreak. She believed in fighting for choice, in resisting the idea that every path was already drawn. But in the finale, the pull of fate grew stronger than either of them expected. Their relationship became a mirror of the larger struggle, one side clinging to freedom, the other weighed down by the inevitability of destiny. It was in their conversations, their decisions, and their sacrifices that the show reminded us prophecy is never just about the future. It is about the present choices that either defy it or fulfill it. Hari himself also faced betrayal by prophecy. His own plan, the grand design he believed would outlive him, began to bend under pressure. The Empire's unraveling was faster, messier, and more unpredictable than the mathematics had allowed. The Mule's rise was not a small statistical anomaly, but a storm that threatened to destroy centuries of prediction. In the finale, Hari's voice, whether echoing through his holograms or his simulations, carried something it rarely had before: doubt. Even the man who invented psychohistory could not escape the fear that he might have miscalculated. The Cleonic dynasty, too, revealed how destiny and prophecy could twist into chains. For centuries, the clones believed they were destined to rule, their bloodlines stretched across generations by technology instead of chance. Yet their very sameness became their weakness. In the finale, their rule looked less like destiny and more like a prison they had built for themselves. Betrayal among the brothers showed that no prophecy, no mathematics could protect power forever. What was once eternal now looked fragile, ready to shatter with a single choice. The deeper message of this section of the finale was clear. Destiny may guide, but it cannot control. Prophecy may warn, but it cannot prevent. The plan may show the outlines of history, but inside those outlines are billions of choices, acts of love, fear, betrayal, and sacrifice that no formula can measure. And as Gaal, Hari, and the Cleons all faced the truth, the audience was left with the question that defines Foundation: is the future a story already written, or one we write with every step? By the end of the finale, destiny was no longer a comfort. It was a battlefield. Every character, whether a prophet, a rebel, or an emperor, was forced to stand in the space between what had been predicted and what they chose to do. And that space, fragile and uncertain, is where the fate of the galaxy would be decided. Asterisk in the world of Foundation. Betrayal is not just an act of politics, it is an earthquake that shakes entire civilizations. And in the Season 3 finale, betrayal became the heartbeat of the story. Every side, from the Empire to the Foundation itself, was torn apart by broken trust. What made these betrayals so powerful was not only the strategy behind them, but the personal pain they carried. Each betrayal was both a dagger and a mirror, forcing the characters to see who they truly were. The Cleonic dynasty, once the symbol of order and strength, showed just how fragile power becomes when loyalty is fractured. The brothers Day, Dawn, and Dusk had been raised to think they were one soul stretched across time. But in truth, they were individuals with their own fears and ambitions. The finale revealed how deeply they distrusted one another. One brother sought to cling to the throne at all costs, while another secretly doubted whether the dynasty should even continue. The empire that once seemed eternal was suddenly bleeding from within, not from outside attack, but from betrayal at its very core. The irony was sharp. The rulers who built their identity on unity were undone by division beyond the empire. The Foundation itself faced its own shattering. For decades, followers of Hari Seldon's plan believed they were united under one vision: to shorten the darkness after the empire's fall. Yet in the finale, cracks appeared. Some leaders argued that Seldon's plan had already failed, that his vision no longer matched reality. Others still believed in his equations with a kind of blind faith. The betrayal here was not a single act, but the slow unraveling of trust among allies who once stood shoulder to shoulder. The Foundation's strength was always belief in a shared destiny, but what happens when even believers begin to doubt? The personal betrayals were perhaps the most devastating. Gaal and Hari, partners in shaping the future, found themselves at odds. Hari's faith in his mathematics sometimes clashed with Gaal's raw human instincts. She carried visions he could not explain, emotions he could not calculate. Their bond, once unshakable, trembled under the pressure of prophecy and fear. Betrayal between them was not loud or violent, it was subtle, a quiet drift apart that hurt more than open conflict. Then there was Salvor Hardin. Her journey was built on trust in her mother, trust in the mission, trust that her choices mattered. But the finale tested that trust to its breaking point. The choices Gaal made, the secrets Hari kept, and the shifting alliances of the Foundation left Salvor caught in a web where loyalty and betrayal were hard to separate. Her fate in the finale carried the sharpest edge of tragedy because betrayal did not only come from enemies. It came from those she loved most. The Mule's shadow made these betrayals even more dangerous. While he did not always strike directly, his presence amplified fear and suspicion. His ability to bend minds made everyone question whether loyalty was genuine or forced. Was a friend truly a friend, or just another puppet under his control? This uncertainty poisoned relationships across the galaxy, making betrayal feel inevitable. Trust became a luxury no one could afford. The emotional weight of these betrayals is what gave the finale its power. Empires can fall through war, but they can also fall through doubt. Plans can collapse not just because of enemies, but because of the people meant to protect them. By the end of the episode, alliances that once seemed unbreakable were reduced to ashes. The galaxy was no longer divided between Empire and Foundation, it was divided within itself. In every heart and every home, Betrayal and Foundation is not written as a twist for shock value. It is written as truth, that when the stakes are this high, and when the future of billions hangs in the balance, even the strongest bonds are tested. And sometimes those bonds break. The finale showed us that betrayal is not the opposite of destiny, it is part of it. It reshapes paths, redirects futures, and forces characters to make choices they never imagined. As the dust settled, the galaxy looked more fractured than ever. The rulers of the Empire no longer trusted each other. The Foundation no longer stood united. Even Gaal and Hari, the pillars of the plan, were shaken. And in that chaos, the Mule loomed larger, ready to step into the cracks left behind. The Season 3 finale left us with one chilling truth. The future of the galaxy will not only be written by visions and mathematics, it will be written in betrayal. And betrayal, once unleashed, never truly ends. When the dust of the Season 3 finale finally settles, the galaxy no longer feels like the same place. What was once divided into the certainty of Empire and the promise of the Foundation has now been scattered into something far more fragile, fragments of power, fragments of belief, fragments of hope. And yet, it is in these ruins that the seeds of the future are planted. The first question that lingers after the finale is the fate of the Empire. For centuries, the Cleonic dynasty presented itself as eternal, an unbroken line of cloned rulers stretching back to Brother Day's first ancestor. But the cracks have widened into fractures. The Cleons now face rebellion not only from their enemies, but from their own bloodline. Their unity has splintered, their certainty has failed, and their throne no longer looks like a symbol of stability, it looks like a trap. The question is no longer if the dynasty will fall, but when. And when it does, who will rise in its place? The finale leaves this question open, daring us to imagine the chaos that comes when the galaxy's central pillar collapses. Then comes the Foundation itself. The dream of Hari Seldon was never just survival, it was rebirth. A civilization that would rise from the ashes of the Empire, stronger, wiser, and able to shorten the darkness. But after Season 3, the Foundation does not look like one single force. It looks like two halves struggling against each other. Those who cling to Seldon's mathematics with almost religious devotion, and those who believe the plan has already failed. This division is not small. It cuts to the heart of their mission. Can a second chance for humanity be built on a foundation that is itself cracked? The finale does not give us answers, it leaves us with doubt, tension, and the possibility that the very people meant to save the galaxy might end up destroying it from within. And then there is the Mule. His presence in the story has always been like a shadow before a storm, seen in glimpses, felt in whispers but never fully revealed. In the finale, his threat becomes undeniable. His powers, psychic control over countless minds, make him less a man and more a force of nature. Against him, armies mean nothing, equations mean little, and even destiny itself begins to look fragile. The Mule represents the unknown, the wild card that even Hari Seldon's psychohistory could not contain. His rise promises a future where humanity is not guided by reason or belief, but by fear. Every betrayal, every fracture in the Empire and Foundation only makes his victory more likely. The future of the galaxy now depends on whether he can be stopped or whether he becomes its ruler, but the heart of the finale's message is not just about rulers or empires. It is about humanity itself. The question of destiny versus choice still lingers heavier than ever. Are Gaal and Salvor shaping their future through their decisions, or are they trapped in a story already written? Is Hari Seldon's plan a path to hope, or a prison that ignores the unpredictable chaos of human hearts? The finale does not resolve these questions, it sharpens them. And in that sharpening, it reminds us that the struggle for the future is not abstract. It is personal. It is about mothers and daughters, about loyalty and betrayal, about courage in the face of impossible odds. Looking forward, the future of Foundation promises to be more unpredictable than ever. The fall of the Empire is no longer theory, it is inevitable. The rise of the Mule is no longer a rumor, it is certain. And the dream of the Foundation is no longer unshakable, it is fractured. Season 4, if it comes, will not be about simple battles of armies and thrones. It will be about whether humanity itself can survive its own divisions long enough to face the greater threat ahead. The finale closes, not with comfort but with unease. The galaxy feels larger, darker, and more dangerous than before. And yet, in that uncertainty lies the true spirit of Foundation. The story has always been about the balance between order and chaos, between destiny and freedom. The Season 3 finale leaves us standing right in the middle of that balance, unsure which way the scale will tip, and so we are left with one final thought. If the galaxy has survived this storm, what storms still wait beyond the stars? The answer, like the future itself, has not yet been written.